I called the Adult Protective Services hotline. These guys aren't used to doing anything with quote unquote mentally ill because they're used to just straight up railroading people and having no problems with it. So they're stuck in this routine of not having to do their jobs for an entire group of people. And it just so happens to be the most at risk group of people out of all of them. Well, apparently somebody's honking about something. Whatever it is, I hope they're okay. Someone getting off at the pizza place, I think. So we're gonna call the elder abuse hotline. So, I guess I better call the abuse hotline.
You have reached Oregon's Abuse Reporting Safeline for children and adults. Para escuchar este mensaje en español, oprima el 8. If this is an emergency requiring immediate attention, hang up and dial 911. If you're calling to report abuse of a child or for other child welfare information, press 1. If you're calling to report abuse or neglect for an adult or for other adult-related matters, press 2. If you are calling to report abuse of an adult residing in a stabilization and crisis unit home or the Oregon State Hospital, press 1. If the adult is over the age of 65 or has a physical disability, press 2. If the adult has a developmental disability, press 3. If you are calling to report the abuse of an adult with mental illness, press 4. If you are calling to report abuse in a nursing facility, press 5. To repeat this message, press the star key. If you are calling to report abuse of an adult residing in a stabilization and crisis unit home or the Oregon State Hospital, press 1. If the adult is over the age of 65 or has a physical disability, press 2. If the adult has a developmental disability, press 3. If you are calling to report the abuse of an adult with mental illness, press 4. If you are calling to report abuse in a nursing facility, press 5. To repeat this message, press the star key. Enter the Oregon zip code where the adult resides. If you do not have that information, please enter your Oregon zip code so that we route your call to the local resource who can help you.
I don't know.
You have reached Jeff Linneman of the Office of Training, Investigations, and Safety and the Oregon Safeline. If this is an emergency, hang up and dial 911. If you have reached this recording, I am either away from my desk or on another line. Please leave a message and I will call you back as soon as possible. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
None of y'all are taking this seriously. My name is Sean Schwartz, and I'm tired of making call after call after call for none of these services to actually work together. The people that I saw today should have called Adult Protective Services. I was at the Social Security office. I have been around from one end of this country to the other being abused because I'm disabled. I'm physically disabled and I have mental disabilities as well. I could have chosen option 2 or option 3. Whereas option 4 is a trick question. If you're going to call them mentally ill, it is exactly the same thing as mentally disabled. So that term needs to be stopped being used. It's being used to harm us, to discredit the victims. I'm dependent on being able to call a live human being for help. I am an autistic adult male who is homeless, who is physically disabled because of abuse that these predators got away with by saying I'm mentally ill and trying to infer that I'm schizophrenic or delusional. In reality, I am traumatized from making all these calls, having to make them alone for these agencies instead of working together with the victim to stop the abuse. They blow me off and make excuses. I'm aware of the laws, but the laws don't matter when you're called mentally ill and nobody cares. Law enforcement screwed up their chance to do the right thing and do their jobs as mandated reporters. Ma'am, or sir, whoever you happen to be that gets this message, my name is Sean David Schwartz. I was born October 18th, 1980. Look up the name Natalie Bollinger, Natalie Bollinger. She's dead because mandated reporters didn't want to do their jobs. The people that I was sent to by APS that are supposed to do their jobs are not coordinating to help the victim. They're coordinating to make a profit off of me. The local services, rather than do their jobs to assist me, all right, I guess. See, I'm overwhelmed when they ask me questions like that. I don't fucking know. I don't have easy access to any of this shit. I'm constantly having to move everything from one pile to another pile to another pile, with it all getting jumbled and fucking clundered until I find what I fucking need. And then I have to move everything back. In order to fucking lay down, I have to fucking lay down on a bunch of hard shit. Eight 503-7233.
You have reached Oregon's Abuse Reporting Safe Line for children and adults. Para escuchar este mensaje en español, oprima el 8. If this is an emergency requiring immediate attention, hang up and dial 911. If you're calling to report
That's
abuse
been
of a
getting me
child
abused, dummies,
or
if
for
you
other
fucking
child welfare
listen.
information, press 1. If you're calling to report abuse or neglect for an adult, for quality assurance, calls may be recorded or monitored. Please choose carefully from the following options. The Oregon Child Abuse Hotline is for reporting child abuse. Oregon Child Abuse Hotline, can I help you?
Hello, my name is Sean Schwartz, and I'm a disabled and at-risk adult here in Oregon. I've tried to get people to follow the laws as far as mandated reporters go. They're not doing it. I'm in Tillamook, Oregon, and for me to be sent from one service to another, for them not to call APS and not coordinate with me to get the evidence or myself safe. Ma'am, I'm living in a parking lot illegally after being here for 6 months.
Can I get your name one more time?
It's Sean Schwartz.
Can I get a callback number in case we're disconnected?
I don't actually know my phone number because it's new, and also because of the number of calls and because of this whole plausible deniability thing. I have to record everything live on YouTube. That way, if I'm retaliated against, at least there's evidence.
Am I live on YouTube at the moment?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. One moment. There might be some. I'll have to double check with my supervisor about whether we should be doing that just potential privacy violation. That said, I do want to see what I can do to get you the help I can. Are you just Medicare tonight? Are you reporting?
I can't hear you very well.
Are you reporting the abuse of a minor under the age of 18?
Ma'am, I have a whole vehicle full of evidence of abuse against minors and adults, at-risk adults and children, from one side of the country to the other, ma'am. A lot of people tell me about their abuse and about their children being abused. A lot of people that were going to help me ended up being highly abusive situations as well.
Okay. How did you get into this?
I grew up in the system being abused, and then I aged out at 18 before they had services that were required to help people before they turned 18. So I fell through the cracks. I'm intelligent but broke. I was supposed to have disability, but I didn't have anyone to help me to get disability, so I had to learn how to normalize. Unfortunately, when I have to normalize and I have to calm myself down and try to pretend to be a quote-unquote normal person, it's psychologically and physically taxing for me. I went to all of the services that I was supposed to. I started recording because that's what I was told that I had to do as an at-risk adult. Otherwise, these services could basically say whatever they want. I've gone to all of these services before without recording it, and that came back to bite me in the butt. Now I do record everything because I have to, and that isn't because of any hatred or anything like that. It's because I am too easy to victimize, too easy to talk over, too easy to completely disrespect. So I've taken the self-advocacy training and watched a lot of the videos too that they have on YouTube about that. I do make sure that I know the laws, but then I end up with being sent to a lot of different agencies. There's the fact that I get overwhelmed, and the first thing I forget when I'm overwhelmed is names and numbers. I'm also easy to badger and easy to intimidate because I know that I don't have any rights without a friend or family member who cares.
You say you have a car that has a lot of evidence of abuse of children. Are any of them Oregon children?
Yes, ma'am. But here's the thing, ma'am, is that this is a situation that's taken place nationwide. I'm abused nationwide over slander that I'm never allowed to defend myself against. Although there's supposed to be services in place in every single state to protect at-risk adults. They're not being observed in any of these states. I'm victimized everywhere that I go into moving somewhere else because mandated reporters aren't doing their jobs anywhere for homeless adults.
That sounds incredibly difficult. I'm sorry.
It's
Carl,
more
you
than
said you're over in Tillamook?
I am, and police here have taken part in taking advantage of my disabilities. I did
What are your diagnoses?
I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome and Asperger's, and I also have physical diagnoses. I also have post-traumatic stress disorder, and I have communication issues, primarily due to the PTSD and not so much the autism. Being autistic is wonderful. Being treated like a retard because I'm autistic is not.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
I do.
What are you hoping? Oh, go ahead.
I know that when I try to make a report to local law enforcement, or to anyone else for that matter, when I explain to them that I am physically disabled, that I don't have the ability to defend myself or protect myself, that I have been gaslighted to the point that I literally can't function. People think that gaslighting is just teasing. It's not just teasing. It results in physical harm against people and even death.
Yeah, no, they can't.
Well, people are dead now because of it. Do what?
What would you, if you could kind of wave a magic wand and have me help you tonight? Exactly, do you want to be helped? How could I do that for you?
Well, that's a very, very tough one. I won't be able to function as long as I'm stuck in public. I have sensory overload, and I'm not the only one. I've had officers who have experienced the issues that I have to deal with being stuck in public. They've experienced that issue trying to stand next to an open window and talk to me with traffic driving by. But what they're not doing is coordinating immediately with Adult Protective Services to secure my safety as well as the safety of the evidence. And because I have communication difficulties, it's easy to badger me and berate me and talk over me. And if they lie to me about what the law says, I can't argue with them. I just have to move on. And I can't do that. I don't have the money to do that or any of the resources. I can't physically take care of myself.
Okay.
I need a safe place.
All right. Are you talking about for just tonight, or are you looking to get hooked up with services in Tillamook? What would you like?
Ma'am, I've been in Tillamook for 6 months, and literally your guys' department sent me to all these services to begin with. And instead of doing their jobs to work together with you guys, they sent me on a wild goose chase of every single service here. The Office of Aging and Disabilities, the Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Tillamook County Community Health Center. They're not coordinating with one another. I'm being sent from one to another. They just keep sending me to everybody else. I ended up going down to the courthouse to try to explain what was going on, and I got threatened and harassed and bullied and intimidated and given 8 different renditions by 5 different places of who it is that I'm legally supposed to get a hold of. Each one of them, when they told me I needed to go to the next one, I went to it. A sheriff's deputy named Deputy Fox told me that I needed... Basically, they just sent me around in circles, ma'am. Instead of coordinating and working together to protect the victim, they run a disabled man who can't take care of himself around in circles, wasting money going to all these services. Now, I'm being sent to these services because they're supposed to do their jobs as mandated reporters. Instead of doing their jobs as mandated reporters at TFCC, any of the multiple times that I've gone to them, instead of trying to do their jobs as mandated reporters and getting a hold of Adult Protective Services and Health and Human Services right away to coordinate with them and officers to help out the victim, that victim being me. And I'm sorry that I ended up with the Child Protective Services hotline because I had to press 00 because I keep getting sent through to other lines. Now, obviously, I'm having communication issues.
And no, I think what happens is that because it's, 2:50 in the morning on a Saturday, I'm not necessarily sure that, the services you're looking for are 24/7.
Well, that's one of the things is that I started making these calls 6 months ago, ma'am. I've been running around in circles for 6 months. All of these services are supposed to work together. It shouldn't cost Medicare or Medicaid card in order to get help turning in my predators. All of these mandated reporters that are requiring me to set up all these appointments 3 weeks out, they're supposed to help me to turn it in right away. Instead, they're exploiting my disabilities and setting up appointments that are unnecessary. A mandated reporter is supposed to help me to turn it in right away.
And I want to ask you more questions about, what you're discussing about the abuser and your evidence. But
abusers, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's reporters are confidential, and because we're live on YouTube, I can't ask you details about that because it would violate the confidentiality.
Yes, ma'am, and that's one of the things about being forced to go to YouTube, because the confidentiality stuff is being used in the opposite of what it's supposed to be used for. I have to go to a whole bunch of agencies that have absolutely no transparency whatsoever. I
understand that. What can I do for you tonight? I know it's limited services. Tillamook's not a big county, not like Multnomah where there's a lot of stuff open at this hour in the morning.
The problem is,
connect you with?
ma'am, the problem with sending me to services in Tillamook is that I'm being sent to these people to investigate themselves and their friends. That's not going to work. They're all refusing to do that job, despite the fact that in their mandated reporter training, it explains that people doing that, it is against the law, that does put the victim at risk. They are required as mandated reporters, not optional reporters. As mandated reporters, they're required to get a hold of law enforcement and adult protective services right away. I've done that in every single service here, and every one of them has gone out of their way to lie to me about what the law is. Even one agency alone had me call 8 different places. One of these police agencies sent me to 4 different places. Each time they're
your ultimate, I'm so sorry to talk over you, but I want to try to get you directed or help you out to the best that I can. Your ultimate goal right now is to work together with Adult Protective Services to assist you with your communication issues so that you can make a report of.
No, ma'am, it's not just communication issues. It's also, it's my physical disabilities. It's also the conditions that I'm living in. I know that one of the protocols when I try to turn this in is that they're supposed to assess my living conditions, and that's not happening. I'm getting blown off, and I'm being intimidated and threatened and harassed by police here. And then I'm being told that I have to go to the police department to turn in the police, and they're giving me a whole bunch of runaround and playing head games because I still don't have a caseworker who's actually helping me. I was sent to Tillamook Family Counseling Center because they're supposed to be mandated reporters. I was sent to churches because they're supposed to be mandated reporters. And the fact that I have to record mandated reporters, because if I don't record the mandated reporters, I have no proof that I tried to turn this in to mandated reporters. I didn't start off recording everything and posting it live on YouTube. I had to start posting it live on YouTube because mandated reporters were not doing their jobs, and they're protected from having to do their jobs or from any consequences by pulling this whole, well, it's basically I'm trying to remember the name of it. See, that's one of the things with me being overwhelmed and my communication issues being like that, is that the evidence communicates it better than I can when I'm in a state of panic. I'm afraid of law enforcement here because they have made no attempt to coordinate with adult protective services for the safety of me or my evidence. None of these services here have assessed the situation that I'm living in, or the conditions I'm living in, or my ability to do any of the things that they're asking me to do. Financially, I can't keep on running around wasting gas to go to services that they're telling me are free. They're not free if they're having to require my Medicaid card to do their jobs. Medicaid does not cover mandated reporters.
So, as far as getting you with somebody, a caseworker from, oh, I'm so sorry. Give me just one moment. I need to fix something on my headset. I'll be back.
Yes, ma'am.
In a brief moment.
Well, that was not pleasant. So I got hung up on. Ugh. Hopefully they'll call back. I should have it on their caller ID. I hope. So here's how I advanced from not putting everybody's personal business up on YouTube to not giving a fuck. I went to my friends and family and I didn't have the ability to record. I had to depend on them to care in order to get heard. I had to depend on them to look at the evidence. I had to depend on them to care enough to do something to stop it instead of talk over me, tell me what to do, what to think, and what to feel, and to make empty promises. That's what they do anyway, isn't it? So I went to a lot of mandated reporters before Natalie was killed. And they didn't do their jobs. I tried and I tried and I tried. And I did what they wanted. The things that mandated reporters told me to do when I did them, well, my predators got to use those things to pretend I was a horrible person. When I did what Joanna Taylor Smith wanted me to do, which was make a new Facebook profile, she thought that was going to fucking fix it. She wasn't listening to what I had to say. She wasn't listening to understand for goddamn sure. It didn't matter how many mandated reporters I went to. They just refused to do their jobs. That's why it's recorded. But also, just recording it wasn't good enough. Because if I wasn't able to record it live, as you got to see in Wyoming, all they have to do is press false charges. There's a whole gamut of cheap tricks that they use to prevent the victim from turning in their predators. One of them is the safety issues for the victim of having zero transparency with any of these agencies. Doesn't seem like they're going to call me back. See, here's the thing, is that hundreds of mandated reporters fucked it up for everybody. Mandated reporters want it to be kept private. Well, here's the thing, is that we tried that. Their method only makes it easy to victimize us. When I go to mandated reporters, if they choose to break the law and I don't have it recorded, well, they get to make it their word versus mine, and that is never okay. I went to mandated reporters before Natalie was killed, and they didn't do anything. They did absolutely nothing except cost me time, cost me money, and allowed predators to gain access to me over and over and over again. Going to Nicole Peralta, going to Tamara, going to Jen Beebe, going to Jeff Ritter, and Kara Heller, Nicole Jarrell, There's no checks and balances. Because mandated reporters thought they were optional reporters when I had the ability to record. I started recording, and I tried to keep that evidence safe.